Images of women as victims are rampant in gender and development. This is particularly the case in discussions of sexuality, where the world is portrayed as so fraught with dangers it seems almost impossible to imagine women enjoying themselves. This focus on the negative can be paralyzing, both in terms of ease with one's own body and in terms of mobilizing around women's wants and desires. Such narratives dovetail with religious right agendas to protect women's chastity. Yet at the same time, sexual pleasure is an obsession in women's magazines, pornography, and a whole variety of other media. Contemporary pressures, fueled by these media, as well as the pharmaceutical industry and the market more broadly, set up new imperatives as to what counts as good sex and how this should be performed. These suggest that only particular kinds of people are eligible for sexual pleasure and that particular kinds of sex are superior. These kinds of sex may be far from the most people's experience. They set up an unrealistic model that hinders an exploration of what they themselves can and wish to enjoy. Susie Jolly, Andrea Cornwall, and Kate Hawkins, from the book Women, Sexuality, and the Political Power of Pleasure. And I think that excerpt from the introduction of that book introduces and sets up my topic really nicely. My name is Claire Garner, and the subject of my senior research paper is The Transformational Power of Pleasure, Life Before and After Exploring Your Pleasure, a 3-day women's workshop retreat. And this topic is very dear to me because with my particular upbringing as a daughter in a very religious family, I did not have access to pleasure and I did not have autonomy over my own body. And when I attended this very workshop, I experienced a profound transformation, and my quality of life since attending the workshop and opening up the possibility of autonomy over my body, and also learning and practicing and gaining access to pleasure as a tool for empowerment, my quality of life has gone up, and I have experienced lower levels of anxiety and depression. So when it came time to create a research project and topic, I picked this because I had a hunch that there may be other women who experienced the same transformation, and if so, I wanted to add my bit of research to the existing research on the power of pleasure and how it can play its part in healing anxiety and depression. And I have thoroughly enjoyed doing this research. Before I go on to explain my personal research project, I would like to turn the time over to Luba Venable and one of her fun TikToks. You can find Luba Venable on TikTok. Her handle is Body Love. Luba is one of the co-creators and co-facilitators of the workshop that I did my research on, called Exploring Your Pleasure. So I hope that if you're curious, you feel like checking her out on TikTok, you're more than welcome to do that. And here is Luba.
Do you ever feel like, I wish I could enjoy my body more? Or, I love my partner, but something is missing from our lovemaking? Or feeling lonely during lovemaking? Or something wrong with my body, I hate my body? If any of those things are coming up, I got you covered. I'm just so excited to invite you to the in-person weekend workshop where we're going to explore all of these things and just coming out of there feeling embodied and feeling so just like confident in your body and learning, knowing how to really enjoy, how to have pleasure.
So my research is around what happens when you embody pleasure, and what happens when a woman learns how to access pleasure. Something that I personally find uncommon in society, in the places that I have been, that I have lived in. So women, pleasure, and quality of life, the transformational power of a 3-day somatic sex therapy women's retreat called Exploring Your Pleasure. Through a meticulous examination of 2 participants' experiences, this research aims to shed light on the interplay between self-exploration, communal support, and the empowerment that stems from embracing pleasure. By studying this holistic perspective, I aspire to contribute to a broader understanding of the healing nature of experiencing pleasure along the multifaceted journey towards personal growth and transformation. By examining the intricate dynamics of a 3-day retreat centered on somatics and self-discovery and pleasure, this study uncovers compelling findings around the strong positive effect of incorporating pleasure into one's daily life. I interviewed 2 women who attended this workshop in March of 2023. They will go by Heather and H. Heather attended this workshop as part of ongoing therapy to uncover more peace and heal old emotional wounds. Her experience at the workshop was, in her words, profound, beautiful, mystical, spiritual, healing. Her experience before the workshop was categorized with a lot of negative self-talk and time spent alone and hating her body, which affected her ability to enjoy herself outside of sort of like watching TV and stuff. So she explained that before the workshop, the effect of hating her body was not going out and living her life. And that after the workshop, she has noticed a transformation of her inner dialogue, and she has found a new and deep-seated love for her physical form, which has allowed her to create new relationships with women. And she described that as fulfilling, and this newfound love for her own physical body has also helped her have more passion. And so she has found herself returning to poetry since the workshop, dancing more, and finding new musical interests. Harry Styles came up, and she's a 62-year-old woman who described herself as not allowing herself to enjoy very much, and now she's enjoying often. Something that came up for Heather during our interviews was the fact that she experienced a paradigm shift around sex acts versus pleasure, and her new ability to access pleasure on her own with an understanding of her own body and a love of her body being held by the support of this group of women. She can experience the pleasure without the pressure of that may come from her relationship that she said can sometimes come. So she experienced a positive effect on her quality of life. The second participant will go by H. H attended this workshop because as part of her ongoing patterns and her lifestyle to take any opportunity for experiencing pleasure. During our interviews, her relationship to motherhood came up, and this participant experienced a traumatic event and went through all the stages of grief and felt that her pleasure practices allowed the flow of grief to move and not get stuck. She also explained that her relationships with women also allowed her to move through. And so she explained that pleasure affects her life positively in that it allows for growth and movement and flow even through life's difficult times. Those are just a couple examples of what came up for the 2 participants in this study. In conclusion, in my paper, in my research, just really discovered more experiences of the profound impact of this workshop, which underscored self-discovery and communal support in fostering personal growth. This research highlights 2 voices, experiences of 2 women, but hopefully contributes to the broader discourse surrounding pleasure, empowerment, and holistic healing. And I feel very strongly that this small bit of research can add to existing research. The experiences of women are so diverse, but pleasure seems to be a universal experience that, if we honor, can greatly benefit our quality of life. Thank you.